Good evening, West Coast Berbice, New Amsterdam, Quarantine Coast. Good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss together the important issues that would have taken place in our country over the last week or so since we met. Tonight I have for you a special guest, young Nigel Dharamlal, a Central Committee member of the People's Progressive Party, a member of the PYO, in fact the coordinator of the Progressive Youth Movement, as well as a member of Parliament of the People's Progressive Party, and he is a son of Region 5, where so many people are looking at this program. Nigel, good evening and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Kamerano, and I'm happy to be here to join you on Issues in the News.
And I want the viewers to see the type of persons that we are grooming and promoting in the People's Progressive Party. When we speak about youth and about youth development and about the development of young people and developing the welfare of young people, we don't only speak about it, we put it into action. And that is why the People's Progressive Party produced the youngest head of state ever in this part of the world, in fact in the entire world. And yours truly was one of the youngest Attorney General ever in Guyana and certainly in the Western Hemisphere. And now you have Nigel Dharamlal, who is in Parliament already, in the leadership of the party already, and also coordinating the Progressive Youth Movement. So that is the kind of priority that we place on youth as opposed to the government and the APNU. When you look at them in Parliament, Nigel, you see the average age of about what?
I think when we discussed the National Youth Policy, good evening viewers, only recently we discussed the National Youth Policy in Parliament, and it was evident that the average age of the government is touching old age, touching 65.
Touching 65.
So,
and every one of their policies is also in that orientation. They are going back. Anyway, as the program unfolds, we will deal with those matters. Nigel, this is your first time on the program. I want to specially welcome you, and I will give you, as a good host, I'll give you the opportunity to begin to speak on any matter that you wish to begin the discussion on.
Right, thank you, Comrade, and I'm very happy, like I said earlier, to be on your program and to interface with residents of Regions 5 and 6. As Anil said, I was born in Region 5 and had my formative years in Region 5. So for all intents and purposes, I am Berbician, and I'm a proud Berbician. And we are very, at our party, extremely hardworking, looking after the interests of Berbicians, especially to the extent that a lot of what is taking place now, from no less a person than our leader, our political leader that is, Comrade Barry Jagdeo, who is also the leader of the opposition. He has been instrumental in ensuring that a lot of the outreaches and interactions of our party emanate from Berbice and involve a lot of what takes place in Berbice. Berbice has suffered tremendously over the last 17 months of the APNU, AFC regime, as they are in government. Agriculture, which is the backbone of Berbice, for example, has been on the agenda of the current government to be destroyed. Only just 2 hours ago, you were meeting with farmers on the west coast of Berbice.
What is striking, Nigel, is that the president came to Berbice on a number of occasions. He went to Blackbush Polder, he went to Region 5, and said to the people, said to the farmers, that they are the backbone of this economy and that agriculture will continue to be the base of the Guyanese economy and continue to be the platform from which we have to build. And this is a president that presides over a government that every day spins out policies that are detrimental to the agriculture sector. You know, they imposed VAT on heavy-duty agricultural equipment for the first time in the history of this country. So the tractor, combine, front-end loader, all these heavy-duty equipment used in the agriculture sector now attract VAT. They killed the Amila Falls project. We are a primary producer of agriculture products, and we are overproducing. Our problem is being able to get markets, being able to process, to do agro-processing, and to be able to export that which we produce. Blackbush polder, balange, pepper, etc. are being thrown away because we can't consume the amount of food that we are producing. CARICOM, for example, has a $10 billion food bill. If we can get a quarter of that, 250 billion US dollars, we can supply those people with food. But what is our problem? Our problem is the cost of electricity. It is 5 times the cost of electricity in Trinidad, 4 times the cost of electricity in the United States of America. So we can't convert to agro-processing, we can't freeze and we can't have manufacturing done here. And the opportunity that we presented to Guyana after years and years of seeking investors and doing feasibility studies, we came up with the Amila Falls project, and we brought Site Global and a multinational, multi-billion US company called Blackstone to build a hydro project. We secured the financing from the IDB. Everything was set. 15 or 20 years of continuous work was just thrown away by this government when they were in the opposition, when they killed the Amila Falls project.
Well, I think
now they speak about agriculture.
I think the government, what we find happening is that there's a classic example, in colloquial expression, in local expression, we say that the president is at the seawall and the rest of the country is on the east bank. So Guyanese people are moving forward, but I think the head of policy in our country, the president, is far removed from what obtains in the daily lives of people. And I think that is why him and his government, they're unaware and they're unable, and I even think that they're incapable of producing policies and interventions that farmers need, that young people need, that single parents need. They're only focused on the special interest groups, and those special interest groups are less than 5 individuals who supported them tremendously in their campaign. So everything in this government now, all the resources, over the past 2 budgets, about $451 billion were passed in the parliament since this government took office. And most of that went to just a few individuals. They paid DDL a few billion, they paid BK Tiwari a few billion, and then there are some Rudisa a few
billions,
so
the bond contract another few millions.
So the government is awash with corruption right now, and the president has been a monumental failure, and this current administration has taken Guyana to depths that I don't think we've ever gone before, at least in modern times.
Thank you. But I want to focus a little more on agriculture because it is the foundation of the Berbice economy. I highlighted before the president himself revoking leases for rice farmers, leases that were issued under the hand of President Ramotar in relation to MMA lands. Took that away. Then this very president instructed that there must be rates increase in MMA. So you used to pay $2,000 annually per acre for drainage. Now they are going to raise that to $6,000 per acre. We just attended a meeting where the region, the REO, the Regional Executive Officer for RDC Region 5, who is the executive officer, meaning that he is the government officer in the region, he is the agent of the minister, and he is attempting to remove over 54 cash crop farmers, 54 families. That translates to about 250 persons, farmers, 54 families occupy about 50 acres of land. State land on the side of the road, they have been in occupation since 1989. They have drained the land over the years, they have cleared the land over the years, and over 250 persons are farming that land, earning a livelihood from that land, and for no reason the REO of Region 5 has served them notices to vacate the land, that they will take the land, the region will take the land back and wants to do some kind of farming experimentation. Now, Nigel, you know that Region 5 has hundreds of thousands of acres of available land that can accommodate whatever the project is. Why is it that you want to see this land, where these farmers have been in occupation for over 35 years, and they have growing crops on the land, and you want to take this land from them? It simply does not make sense.
Well, as a matter of fact, I think their entire agricultural policy and their vision for agriculture is blinkered. The first thing that the government did, and let's take us back, the viewers back, just 17 months. Within 2 weeks of them being in government, the rice industry went into a tailspin. Yeah. Sugar, for example, it takes about $1.7 billion to get Wales Estate up and running, competitive and productive as well, profitable. The government, though, decides that 1,700 workers have to be let go. Thousands of people, almost, I think it is nearly 30,000 people on the west coast of Demerara who are going to be affected. But what have they done? We've been made aware that one or two big business people, close friends of the government, may actually have the lands allotted to them, and then they're looking to diversify into rice. Something that the government is failing at, but they're still trying to diversify into. In Region 5, Region 5 has over 100,000 acres of rice land. Region 5 is the largest cattle producer in our country. Region 5 has tremendous potential.
And the largest rice producer.
And the largest rice producer as well, by a far way. And so, when they target cash crop farmers, this is not the first attack they've had on cash crop farmers on the west coast of Berbice. As a matter of fact, within a few months of them being in government, it was reported that staff purporting to be from GRA and elsewhere going into Bath settlement and some other areas and measuring shallot banks and so forth and terrorizing our citizens.
And you would recall also the plight of the cash crop farmers at Hope Estate on the east coast of Demerara, where over 500 farmers were told that their leases for their lands are going to be increased by some astronomical figure, some 1,000 and something percent, for no apparent reason. No apparent reason. As a result of a lot of agitation and as a result of highlighting it in the public, they backed down from that decision, and I've not heard anything else. So while you have a president and a government that speaks to the importance of agriculture in Guyana as an economic sector, you see every single day the actions of the government contradicting and are counterproductive to the agriculture sector. So you don't understand really their philosophy and their actions.
But as a matter of fact, only a week ago, their biggest intervention in agriculture has been a coconut festival. And I heard the Minister of Business, under whose portfolio this festival came, saying that farmers will benefit and Guyana by and large will benefit because the industry will also add fun and flavor to the tourism sector. I mean, it is outrageous, some of the vision of this government and the way they conduct themselves.
But none of these industries can kick off unless we have cheap, affordable and renewable energy.
Exactly, because for agriculture, it is not just about producing the product, but it is about placing it, about positioning it on the market. And how do you do that? You have to be competitive, and to be competitive, you have to be a reliable producer, you have to be a reliable supplier, and you have to have a price that consumers can afford.
Take coconut oil. You go in America now, and large multi-billion-dollar companies like L'Oreal and Victoria's Secret, they are bottling coconut oil, scented coconut oil or without scent. And when I say scented, I don't mean a coconut oil scent, I mean a perfume scent. And they are bottling that, and that a small bottle like this is selling for $4 and $5 US with a little fancy sticker and in a little fancy plastic bottle. And you get that at the expensive malls in Miami and in New York and Toronto. We could have been doing that. But why we can't do it? We can't do it because we don't have a manufacturing sector. We don't have a manufacturing sector because we don't have cheap and affordable electricity.
Well, as a matter of fact, right now, we are paying, I think, between $58 to $63 per kilowatt hour for electricity on the coast. In the hinterland, it is way more expensive. But if we had actually gotten a mile, and I think by now we probably would have already had power generation from a mile, if whatever happened previously didn't happen. If a mile had kicked in, we were going to produce electricity for less than $25 per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
So it's almost 2.5 times less than what we're paying right now.
And after a period of time, we would have owned that facility. After we would have paid back, we would have owned it. There was a fixed term, I believe it was 15 to 20 years. We would have been owning that, and we could have dropped electricity to any rate. We would not have been dependent upon the fluctuation of fuel on the international market. This government is so lucky. The one thing that is saving this country and saving this government and really propping up the economy is the cost of fuel. When we were in government, we were paying as high as $165 per barrel for fuel. Fuel now is $15 and $13 per barrel.
Well, I mean, the windfall that they receive is tremendous. GPL, for example, and our viewers, this is important for you to know. GPL has been using in excess of 130 million US per year of our revenues just to import fuel. So, a mile was supposed to have cost about 800 million US.
Yeah.
So, in less than 8 years, the savings on GPL alone would have gone towards a mile. So, within a short few years, and then the savings, 130 million US per year, we could have pushed that into many
That is the thing. The fact that we would have had access to monies that are being spent on the acquisition of fuel, that extra cash to invest and to invest in the people of this country would have really catapulted Guyana. Anyhow, we passed that stage, and the sad thing is that there is no talk about another Amila or another hydro project. The president, ever so often, like every 6 months, he utters something about some small hydro projects. But that's all. You're not hearing anything else. I mean, you're not seeing any investor. You're not seeing any movement in the direction of the establishment of these hydro projects.
As a matter of fact, they're chasing investors away. For example, I'm not certain how many Burbishans work with Barama, but the entire forestry operations of Barama.
Yeah, I spoke about that at length on this
500 people are actually out of jobs. I mean, imagine the effect that will have on families across the country.
It's 500 employees. You have to multiply that by 4.
By their households.
Because it's households you're dealing with. So that's 2,000. But what people don't understand is that those are direct employees of Barama. There are many persons whom I know personally who work with Barama, but they are contractors and Baraba hires them, but they in turn hire 80, 90 persons.
And the effect it has on agriculture. For example, many of those workers live in the field operations area.
Yes.
Buckhall and so forth. Barama has to buy food to take in vegetables, fruits, poultry.
Yeah, it's a whole chain and domino.
So it is not just, like you rightly said, it's not just about the 500 people. But the government, I mean, what they're doing basically is being penny wise and pound foolish.
But you
so
know,
someone comes with a fantastic idea, sounds good on paper, and they get excited about it. But there is a document I was reading recently called the Sophia Declaration that Barnum presented in 1974, 10 years after he took office. And what Granger has been doing basically is to enliven the Barnum philosophy.
Yeah, well, I did a special program on that here, just after the Biennial Congress, the 19th Biennial Congress at Sophia, where I said to the Barbicians, that, and I said to a group in Canada recently where I spoke, that if you are in doubt as to where Granger stands, as to where Granger stands politically, as to where he stands philosophically, all you have to do is to listen to his last address to the party as leader, and that's at the 19th Biennial Congress in August this year, where he said very clearly and unequivocally that Barnum is alive, that Barnum philosophy is alive, and that the party is committed to Barnum's legacy and Barnum's philosophy. What is Barnum's legacy? Political legacy is he rigged every single elections in this country. He was a political dictator. He was an authoritarian. He killed people to stay in power. He was prepared to do anything, including kill people. And in the process, he destroyed the economy of this country because dictatorship leads to economic decline. And every country where there is a dictator, there is economic stagnation and decline.
In 17 short months, we're not very far from that. As a matter of fact, with all the strides our country made in the years of the PPP, and especially during the last 15 years of the PPP, during the Jagdeo presidency, for example, when they had a global financial crisis in 2008, Guyana was in a handful of countries that wasn't affected by the global financial crisis. But what this government has done, and you spoke at length about it in Parliament, they've imposed 140 new taxes.
That's correct.
On our people. And even only yesterday, they imposed additional taxes through tolls in Linden once again. And all the trucks, all the vehicles that pass through Linden that go into the interior to take food, to take spares, to take fuel, the mining sector is going to be tremendously affected. The Amerindian people, thousands of them are going to be affected. The Lethem, for example, when we were in government, it was thriving. We had a tremendous free zone. Brazilians used to come to Lethem.
We built Lethem into a city.
Now Lethem is a ghost town.
A ghost town.
And this is exactly what is also taking place in Berbice. Every single place you go to. I came from Linden on Sunday evening. You know what? The residents of Linden, they're referring to Granger as the oppressor. Because he has basically taken away bread out of people. Any government that is focused on taxation is short-lived. Because they have no idea of how to build the economy. That is why we don't find investments in the productive sectors.
Yeah.
Nothing in the extractive sector. All that they're doing is going to everyone, even, and I like the classic case you mentioned in Parliament, from a mule.
From man to mule, they have taxed everything.
You know,
and look, Friday we are going back to Parliament, and on the agenda is a motion moved by Comrade Irfan Ali that will have us discuss the controversial parking meter in Georgetown. In the face of such economic gloom, where there is increased taxes, reduction in jobs, stagnation in commerce, reduction in trade, decline in the productive sectors, no real wages increase, decline of disposable income. In the face of those realities, this government is moving to impose parking meters for the first time in the history of this country. You want to know if these people are mad.
Well, like I said, I don't think the leaders of this government actually live in Guyana. Because the way they're operating is as though this country is awash with money and people are extremely rich, and you know, Guyanese people, they can tax them as much as they want, but I think there'll come a point in time when the Guyanese people are going to rise up against us.
I keep saying to people that, you know, I don't care how rich you are. If you spend and you spend and you spend and you do not put back, then you will eventually become bankrupt. I mean that is not even economics, it is common sense. And that level of elementary common sense seems to be eluding those who are in charge.
Well, I think what these guys are doing in government, I think it is a design. It's a design to fester corruption. Because all that is happening, you're finding ministers of government are, some of them, I recently drove by one of a minister's home, and from the road, it's tiled. This is a guy who couldn't really, you know, do anything previous to May 16, when they were sworn in the government. There are two ministers, as you're aware as well. One is renting a house now for $500,000 a month. Another one is renting a house for nearly $1 million per month.
Yeah,
and we are paying for all of this.
And this is a woman who was living in Bartica in a house that had a couple of windows missing. She now lives in a mahal in Bel Air Park, central air conditioned, pool, and you know.
I think it's the biggest house in Bel Air Park actually.
I don't have a problem with people living in nice houses, etc. But get your own house. Get your own house.
And we are paying.
They do like what Jagdev did. They cost Jagdev, up to now they're costing him about his house. But at least it's his house. Nobody ever said that he stole money to buy it.
And the unfortunate thing about all of what is taking place is that the young people in this country are the ones who are suffering because there are no jobs, there are no opportunities, there is no hope.
And you know, it is the young people who were fooled the worst by this administration when they were in opposition. They went, I mean, they fooled the entire country, and I've often said that on this program so many times, and I've often gone into how they have fooled you. Like, for example, Ramjatan and Nagamutu were the champions of transparency and accountability and so on. They gave these agencies independence. The constitutional agencies like the judiciary and the DPP office and so on, they gave them independence. They said that they will give them their money by themselves. They don't want interference with government. And they gave the people the freedom to prepare their own budget and submit it to the parliament. Every year that they have been in government, when that has been done, they have been cutting the people's budget.
Well, I mean, there's a history to that, so that is what...
Yeah, when they were in opposition, they cut our budget. Now they are in government, they are still cutting budget. And imagine I virtually begged the Minister of Finance to give the DPP $37 million more. That is all the lady is asking for, the DPP office. Now the DPP is responsible for giving all legal advice to police stations right across the length and breadth of this country in relation to whether to charge in criminal matters and what to charge for. Every single file from every single police station that requires legal advice goes to that office. No matter where that police station is located, it is that one office to which it goes. That one office has the burden to advise this whole country on the question of crime. And you know how significant a problem crime is in Berbice. The DPP also has to prosecute all the murders and all the jury trials conducted at Berbice High Court, Demerara High Court, Georgetown High Court, and Essequibo High Court. And this DPP, to do all this work, is asking only for $37 million. Only for $37 million more, and the Minister of Finance says no.
Yes, the Minister of Finance said the fiscal space
that he doesn't
in which
have.
the government operates does not allow them to do that. But it's interesting you spoke about that. I recall when we were discussing the supplementals as well last week, and I had asked Minister Ramjathan this question. In January of this year, they had 2,011 criminals incarcerated.
Yes, I remember that.
By the end of September, they had 2,189. So I asked Minister Ramjathan whether there's an increase in crime. The minister said no. There are more criminals. There is a shortage of money. There is a cut budget to the DPP, and the minister is still denying that there is a rise in crime. The violent crime in this country has gone to unprecedented levels. Every single day someone is being robbed. Every single day. People are even so scared to even go to the police, no one reports it.
And Ramjathan is intolerant of questions. I remember he said to you, no, he's not answering anymore. One, when you ask him some particular question about the prisons. And this is a guy who came to Berbice for years masquerading as a Democrat, that the government must withstand, the PPP government must withstand the scrutiny of the parliament, etc. After 17 months, he doesn't want to answer questions anymore.
Well, as a matter of fact, Ramjathan I mean, he's drowned in his work. And I think the president recognized it. So what the president has done recently is to remove a lot of the responsibilities that our former ministers of Home Affairs had. And the president has now taken over some of those responsibilities. Citizenship, immigration.
Well, to begin with, they took it from the very early.
And immigration of recent now has...
Recently they took again.
So Ramjathan's power, he's basically a window dresser.
And so is the Prime Minister.
Well, the Prime Minister has been denuded to the extent that he's irrelevant. So irrelevant that, by the way, I heard he is now Dr. Moses Nagamoto.
Yeah, he is the only person that I know who was given a doctorate, not because of, one receives an honorary doctorate because of one's contribution in a particular field of endeavor.
Right.
Nagamoto has not contributed anything in any particular field, or at least the university, when they conferred that doctorate upon him, did not identify the field of endeavor in which he excelled. What they said is that they are giving him because he's Tamil.
He's Tamil.
So he got a tribal doctorate.
Right.
He got a doctorate because of his tribe, not because of his contribution to any sphere of society. And he criticizes Bara Jagdev so much over his doctorate that, as karma would have it, his doctorate comes from a university named Bharat University.
Well, I mean, Nagamoto is a non-entity for me. I mean, I wouldn't even mention his name. You know, he has done a disservice to the people of this country. He had promised so much when he was in opposition. He had promised so much the day before he became Prime Minister. And I have photographs, and I would love to share it with our Barbicians. If you go on my Facebook page, you'll see photographs of how the president sits in this room. The president sits at a table by himself, and Nagamoto sits on the right. The Prime Minister of Guyana sits at a table besides the president, whilst the president prescribes over the members of the cabinet. It is outrageous, the level of indignation that Nagamoto now receives from the president and the PNC by and large. Nagamoto, what he's done basically is to railroad the dreams and the ambition of our young people and the people of this country, and handed it over to the PNC.
Now, I want to talk a little about a recent development. You would have heard over the news Minister of State Joseph Harmon announcing that the government will hire prosecutors to prosecute persons in relation to Pranoville number 2. Now this economy has so much problems. So many people want jobs. There are so much for this government to do to solve the issues in the sugar industry, to address the issues in the rice industry, to try to get investors for the forestry industry, to help the small miners out of the problems that they have, to bring an economic stimulus package to the economy itself so that it can catapult into action, into energy. All of that the government pushes aside and decides that it is now going to prosecute persons who got land under Pranoville. They said that they're going to bring prosecutors from foreign countries. Now I don't care who they bring. They can't sustain a successful prosecution. That's one. Because no offense has been committed. None. So I don't care who they bring. All that they will succeed in doing is raise the political tension in this country, because who they will prosecute? They are going to prosecute leaders of the PPP. So they raise the political tension in the country. When you raise political tension, you raise ethnic tension as well. You're going to expend hundreds of thousands of US dollars, which we don't have, and which could have been better spent in buying drugs for the health centers in Region 5, where they don't have basic drugs in none of the 2 regional hospitals nor the health centers, and the same obtains in Region 6. Rather than do that, they're going to pay some foreigner to attempt to jail I don't know who, and they will not succeed. But the important thing is that they are bypassing the authorities that the Constitution established to do this work. You see, the Constitution is a structure. It says that the government, the people that wins the election, the party that wins the election, you are to do these things. These agencies are to do these things. And these things that these agencies have to do include scrutinizing the government. The government doesn't want these agencies to function. They are already not functioning, right? Through incompetence and through misplaced priorities. They are not functioning. And they are intolerant of these agencies functioning. So you have the Minister of Finance cussing out the Auditor General. The Auditor General's job is to scrutinize the Minister of Finance and to say when the Minister of Finance or some aspect of government is not keeping their accounts properly. Well, the Auditor General did that to us for 20-something years.
Well, the unfortunate thing about how the PNC operates is that they operate without no rules. They operate without laws.
So they cuss out the Auditor General.
They are a party of paramountcy.
Right.
And then they denude many of the constitutional bodies. Like you said, there are 16 constitutional bodies.
Right.
And all have been denuded.
They cut the budget for all. Every single one of the constitutional agencies, they have reduced their budgets. So when you reduce their budget, you reduce their capacity and ability to oversight the executive, right? So they are bypassing the DPP and they are bringing in their own prosecutors. We have legal challenges about all these things because only the DPP makes these decisions by law, by the Constitution. She has or he has exclusive constitutional mandate. Exclusive means to the exclusion of everyone else.
Well, I think the legal advice the government gets from no less a person than the infamous Basil Williams. I mean, they will continue to blunder, and they're blundering every day. I think what is taking place now is just a political gimmick, and they are on a campaign. They've begun the first day they came into office. They've been campaigning, so they continue to push this to their supporters and to the Guyanese people that so much is wrong in this country, that corruption was so strife, and PPP leaders were mismanaging the economy. The citizens of Guyana, especially those of regions 5 and 6, can see now the difference between the PPP and the APNU AFC.
A lot of them were misled. a lot of a lot of people, I know I have campaigned in this region, I campaigned in Region 5, and I often said how many people have been misled. And the way the world operates, perhaps we had to come out of government for a period so that people can appreciate what we were doing in government. The old people used to say, you never miss the water till the well runs dry. Well, now they are missing the water. They now appreciate what they had. There's another old saying that you never know good. You never know good until bad meets you. Or you never know how good you did until bad comes. Well, bad has come. So, I used to stand up and speak for hours right on television here and at meetings to young people. And I know, I could see it on their faces that I used to speak over them. I could have never penetrated their minds because I used to speak about the PNC. And they can't relate to that because they were born and brought up under the PPP. So they can't relate to what I used to speak about. But so, in a sense, it may have been a good thing that we are out of government so that young people, next time I speak, they can relate to what I am saying.
Well, I mean,
well, they are relating to it now.
I think what the government has missed is a glorious opportunity to move this country forward. They have created more disunity than ever before in this country through their political victimization, through their discriminatory policies, through some of their actions. So what you find now is a country that is in turmoil. Then we have an economy that this government refuses to ponder on. So since last year, the exchange rate, the Guyana dollar has devalued, but many people have not been speaking about it. We have had a contraction in practically every sector of our country. Nothing is generating money for the economy. What the government is doing is spending the windfall that they had from fuel, like you spoke about. They're spending the almost $1.2 billion that we left in the treasury, about 800 million US in the reserves, and about 300 plus million US in that infamous commercial deposits in commercial loans. So the government is basically spending money that we left. And what have they invested in? They've invested in a defunct $1 billion, the Jubilee Park. They have invested in less than 5 businessmen and enriching themselves. So that is where our country is. And until the government and the president starts to speak about the economy, rather than sitting on television once per week where you can't question him, where you can't speak to him, but he speaks to you, our country is going to be further destroyed. The government has to look at the economy. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether I am PPP or someone else is from APNU or wherever else. Bread and butter issues. How do I give my son a meal when the day comes? How do other families take care of their children? Our country is not productive, and that is where the reality of our problems, and this government must suffer for what they have caused upon this country.
And then you have the spin-offs that the people of this country have to endure from the economic sterility and stagnation that is taking place. Criminal activity ranks among the highest of those spin-offs. So you have rampant criminality right across the length and breadth of this country. Even the police commissioner now is finally recognizing, though I don't know where he gets his statistics from, I question his statistics vehemently, but at least he has recognized that the state of the economy has a strong relationship and a causal relationship with the rise in criminal conduct in the country. And the more stagnant the economy becomes, the greater the decline, or the faster the decline, the quicker the upsurge of crime will be.
Imagine a hospital a week and a half ago was robbed. Woodlands Hospital.
Yeah.
criminals went in early morning and
A rice farmer working in his rice fields was robbed. There on the west coast of Demerara, during the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, bright sunlight, cars passing on the road, policemen are passing on the road, and people are being robbed in their homes. Some boys with bicycles just run up with a gun and just rob the people in the house. Several houses, 5, 6 houses in one street. And before anybody can make an appeal, the bandits gone. And bandits are now waiting for people in front of their houses. And as they come out of their vehicles to open their gates, they are attacking them and robbing them. That is the extent of where it has gone.
And there is a reason for it. Poverty. The president, when he spoke recently, I think about 3 weeks to a month ago, or just over that, he said that the narco trade is the mother of all crimes. But poverty, you know, the poverty, people are poor. So when a guy loses his job, when the economy is contracting, when there is no money circulating, what will people do?
Kamraj Ramjatan was here on Channel 8 in New Amsterdam about a month ago and said to the people of Berbice, I don't know where he got this theory from and what was the relevance of it, but he said to the people of Berbice on television that Indo-Guyanese are the ones doing crimes in Berbice and that the PPP was hiding that for 20 odd years. Tell me if I am not to assume that either this guy is drunk or he is mad.
Well, as a matter of fact, that's an extremely racist statement. It's a very divisive statement, and I think Ramjatan is...
What was the relevance of it in the first place?
He's singing for his supper because he's operating in a government that is practically against Berbicians, and himself coming from Berbice and having done nothing to alleviate the conditions of Berbicians. You know, Ramjatan has to say something, and unfortunately, whatever he spews, more often than not, doesn't make sense.
During the Jubilee sport, the birthday Big Bash celebration of the 50th anniversary, the Berbice Chamber of Commerce invited him to address them on crime. At that time, you had one of the several upswings in criminal conduct in Berbice here. And Ramjatan wrote them back and told them that he is busy celebrating and that they will have to wait until the celebrations are over. You know, the minister actually write that in a letter. You know, it's like what Obama said of Donald Trump. President Obama, addressing one of the meetings recently, said that Trump says every single day things that are forbidden and that have been forbidden in America for decades. And Trump just says them one after the other in a speech. And these are, in politics, it is forbidden for a political leader, more so a minister, to tell a constituency that, you know what, a sporting, I can't come now. You got to wait till the sport done. You make some excuse, or you say it nicely, or you say I am ill, or I'm going out of the country, even if you have to lie.
Yeah, I think he's consumed by power, and they think that, you know, by sitting in their glorious offices and with the, you know, the fanfare of driving around with a siren and so forth, that
I looked at him last Thursday and I saw the intolerance which he exhibited when questions were asked of him. You know, is that he doesn't feel obliged.
The psychologists will tell you when you study psychology that when people are frustrated and intolerant and so forth, they're at a point of failure. Those are people who have no way out. They're boxed in a corner, and I think that is where Ramjatan is. Crime has gone out the window. and he has no ability to address it, except to spew these spurious statements, like you said, and so on and so forth in the media. And I think, or the citizens of Berbice, for example, we would have to get out there and call this government to book, and to ensure that the residents of Berbice, the citizens of Regions 5 and 6, the economies of Regions 5 and 6 are affected positively. Because as agriculture is going down, the government, for example, said out of the subsidy they're giving to Gaisuco recently, 1.2 billion will be going towards payment towards labor. So I had asked the question of the minister, which he couldn't furnish to us in Parliament. He subsequently said he was going to provide it. How much of it is going to field operations? How much, if it would basically, how much will the cane cutters be receiving? How much will the mid-management will be receiving? How much the upper management? And they're totally
The truth is, when I look personally, when I look at Noel Holder, I get tired. The man is so old,
well, I mean,
and so feeble, and so I don't. These guys are grandfathers. They should be where grandfathers are, at home, looking after grandchildren. They have no energy. They have no business to be running countries.
Well,
they can't. They don't have the energy.
When they discuss the national youth policy, citizens, you must know this. 0.6% of our country was consulted. We have, between the ages of 14 and 35, 510,000 Guyanese residing within that category. And the government only consulted with 0.6%. And that consultation began under us.
0.6?
Yes, 0.6% of the population was consulted for the national youth policy. And that consultation, 3,000 people were targeted under the PPP. So for all intents and purposes, what this government did is to use the consultation that we started, didn't do any of their own, and put together a national youth policy. The advisor to this government on youth is Aubrey Norton. He is a pensioner.
Yeah, Aubrey has to be in the 60s.
Got to be. I mean, so the government has no regard for anyone.
Let's take a couple calls, Nigel. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello, we are not available.
Oh, we have a new telephone number, I'm told. I hope that that is put on the screen so that the callers can get it. But the phone has been going quite a while, and suddenly it's no longer going. But you know, I remembered President Granger, opposition leader then, during the elections campaign, went to the University of Guyana and went all over, promised young people all sorts of things. Look at what nothing has been done at UG, except that they wanted to jail the students who were attempting to leave the country, until I advised them.
The student loan, they took it away.
They took away, yes, until I advised them that they can't do that. Caller, you're on the air.
Good night, Mr. Nara, and both of you.
Good evening.
Where are you calling from?
Bushlat Village Quarantine.
Oh, Bushlat Quarantine, yes.
And you know, I listen to you, and your program is so wonderful. But what I say that is, in fact, that what you say, if you did not move out of government, the people would not find, they would still keep complaining.
Yeah.
They say it's past now. Because things that are happening now, so bad. You know, you're scared of what are wrong with
So you agree with that statement?
Yes, because if you didn't come out from there, they would come there. How much did I talk about the former president?
Right.
How he steal and how much he gets property big and...
Mansion.
Yes, and they're talking, but if they get fooled because they say they hear about the promises that the government gives them. And I think the government, like what I feel like the government can hardly talk. More or less to do anything, and he only keeps spending, and he don't know how to rule the country. And the people, they never realize what I mean. But now we only pray that you all can get back in the government.
All right, caller. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I think that caller sums up.
You see how intelligent You see how intelligent our people are. You know, they may not be educated, they may not be able to articulate, but she has a sound grasp of the issues that we are discussing and understand them very well. Caller, you're on the air.
Good night, Mr. Nizal.
Hi. Where you calling from?
I'm from Williamsburg.
Williamsburg, yes.
Yeah, bro. Like, to me, you don't know who to talk to, like, you know, because we have Diwali. Sunday, I asked the town clerk of Rosal to come and with the trailer to just pick up people through, you know, people clean the yard and they saw a tree and so, and just put it on the dance side for the people. Me, weed from me over to the other over. Right? Diwali, you gotta get it to free. In PP government, the minute you call somebody, then respond to you. 2, this truck and trailer come and pass by everybody and go to one shop. Go to one shop in the area and pick up the garbage.
But did you try to make contact with the mayor?
I contact the mayor. I think the mayor is not in the country, but I contact the town clerk.
Yeah, with the town clerk and all right, caller. Thank you. I'm going to deal with it.
You until now, this garbage is still out there.
Yeah.
Until now.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. I will have to bring the mayor on this program. The town clerk continues. I continue to get complaints about the behavior of the town clerk of Rose Hall, and I'm going to invite her and the mayor, and we are going to have a frank discussion on this program. Caller, you're on the air.
Good night, sir.
Hi.
I'd like to know.
Where are you calling from, though?
I'm from Williamsburg.
Williamsburg.
Yes. I would like to know what provisions have been made for the next election coming in relation to the role ABC countries might be playing again in the election. Are you aware that I know you are aware, but to what extent do you think the ABC countries had their hand in this election, in the last election?
All right. Let me take another call and then we will answer that. And Nigel, go on.
Yeah, well, I think what had happened is that during the observer process, the ABCs, it was unprecedented before the elections results were officially announced, that they went ahead and pronounced on the integrity of the elections. That has never happened before. So I think it is a matter of incompetence that many of the members of the missions or the embassies who went out on work took a call that should not have been made, and that is to pronounce on the results of the elections without even the elections results being official.
Before the elections
so
were completed.
I think it was grand incompetency on the part of those missions.
Yeah. And caller, I want to assure you that we continue to have a good relationship with the ABC countries and the European Union. The leader of the opposition and many of the leaders of the PPP continue to engage them on bilateral and at a multilateral level, and we have their assurance that they will assist in a number of ways in relation to the 2020 elections.
I think one of the things that we've been looking at
don't worry,
is the electronic voting.
That's correct.
But GCOM, what they have done, the government, GCOM had proposed in their constitutional budget of $5 billion.
Yes, that's something we should talk about.
This government reduced it to $2 billion.
Yeah. We'll have to talk about that next week. We were supposed to, as the law prescribes, start a new registration process, because as you know, the list has a lot of dead people and people who have moved from one location to another, but their old addresses are still on the list, and a lot of people have migrated and their names and addresses are still on the list. So we need a cleansed voters list, a new one. A lot of people have become 18 years and over since we did the last registration some 10 years ago, and the type of cycle that we are using, in any event, the law contemplates a new list being generated like every decade or every decade and a half.
I think this list is overdue. It is more than 10 years old.
Right. So we need to begin, and GCOM had planned to begin this process in 2017, June. And as a result, they asked for $5 billion because it's an expensive exercise. They have to employ hundreds of people. They have to get camera, they have to get all the equipment and materials to start and complete this process, and they were planning to do so, and that is why they put $5 billion in their budget, and the finance minister just slashed it, took away over $3 billion, thereby interfering obviously with GCOM's capacity to embark upon that exercise. So we will have to articulate and bring greater pressure on the government at a later stage to entertain a supplemental paper from GCOM, where that request will have to be entertained. But you may have to do that on the ground as well. One final thought.
We are not available now.
Okay. Nigel, this is where we have to say goodbye. We have approached program time. I want to thank you very much for being part of this program, and I will leave it up to you now to say your final farewell.
Well, to residents of regions 5 and 6 and across our country, and to you, my host, I'm very grateful to be given the opportunity to come once again to Berbice and to share with you what is taking place in our country, what is taking place in our party, and we hope that moving forward, as you're aware, claims and objections started yesterday, so you have to ensure that the things that Comrade Anil spoke about, including your transfers and so forth, ensure that those are being done.
Yeah.
Ensure that you continue to work towards sustaining our democracy, towards ensuring that the rule of law and good governance remain paramount in our country, and to ensure that the economy is rebuilt, and most importantly, to ensure that the PPP gets back into government.
Thank you very much, Nigel, and you are free to join me any time it's convenient to you. Ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, this is where I have to say good evening and to bid you goodbye until next week. Join me again at the same time, same channel, as we continue our discourse. Thank you very much and have a great week.